The Highbridge Gold course is the longest at Highbridge. It features both gold and white sets of tees and 2 pin placements on most holes. The wood significantly comes into play on about half the holes, but overall the course has an open feel with several holes traversing fairways originally intended for ball golf. The elevation changes are the shallowest of these hilltop courses. Natural and man-made water hazards add challenge on many holes, with several more planned for the future. The shortest layout is 6,200 feet from the white tees to the short pins, and extends up to 9,200 feet from the gold tees to the long pins. A special championship layout extends the course to almost 11,000 feet, but isn't available for daily play. Neither hole 1 pin placement is visible from either tee, but the safe landing area about 300 feet ahead of the gold tee is visible. Then, the 2 pins, which are both dogleg to the right, can be seen from there. Curving the tee shot to the right can shorten the approach, but it can be trouble if it turns too soon. The future pond will also require more accurate drive placement. The short pin at 510 feet has dual but trickier approach routes than the longer pin at 570 feet. Both baskets are well protected and the brush is thick, bordering the fairway. Hole 2 has unusual topography. The gold tee and the pin that can be seen in the distance are about the same elevation, but the fairway dips down on either route and also slopes down to the right. The right branch is an easier route for righties and the left route is more of an option for lefties. The choice is similar from the white tee. In both cases, it's about 325 feet from the gold tee across the slope to reach either opening going back into the woods. The tee choices are to go for it and penetrate back into the woods, but risk landing in the heavy brush lining the fairways, or ease up on the drive to get in good position for a long approach of about 280 to 300 feet. Hole 3 is the first good chance for a 2 on the course. It's almost the same 270-foot distance to each pin from the single gold and white tee. The corridor is pretty tight through the woods, so it's necessary to throw a shot that will turn left or right at the end of the flight. The left pin is slightly uphill, and the right pin is slightly downhill. The small pond is primarily a problem if your drive rebounds into it off the trees straight ahead. Hole 4 has 2 routes through high brush corridors that both work to reach either pin, even though the graphic doesn't indicate it. The center island of brush has been thinned somewhat, but it's really thick left and right off the fairways. The hole lengths to either pin are about the same. The creek crossing the fairway comes into play more for the left pin position and for longer drives off the white tee to the right pin. Both pins are located on mounds for additional challenge, and the pond beyond the right pin is positioned to catch overthrown righty hyzer approaches. Hole 5 is the signature wooded hole on the course. It's not even the longest hole at 930 feet to the long pin from the gold tee, but it's certainly the toughest. The elevated gold tee provides a great view down the drive corridor, which starts to widen about the 200-foot mark. The small OB pond on the right is about 300 feet from the gold tee, which determines your choice to play short or throw a longer drive to clear it that has a little curve to the left at the end. The second shot is usually a throw that curves to the right, setting you up for a 100 to 150 foot approach to the short pin at 740 feet from the gold tee. If your drive goes far enough, sometimes the option is available to try the hero route, which is a massive righty hyzer crush out over the high brush to the right. The hole is mostly level, except for the final downhill leg between the short and long pin. Your final approach to the long pin may be blind, depending on how far you've gone on your second or third throws. There's a small OB pond to the right guarding the long pin, so the hole isn't too easy at the end. You finally emerge from the woods to play hole 6. It's your next chance for a 2 from the shared gold and white tee. The effective length to both pins is about the same, since the longer pin to the right is a little more downhill. The short pin at 310 feet is on the back side of the ball golf green. The ball golf sand trap is a marked OB area right in the flight path to both pins if your throw is either too low or the wind stalls out your drive. As usual, curving your shot too early toward the long pin can mean a tough recovery throw out of the woods. Most consider hole 7 a signature hole, not only on this course but for the Highbridge course complex. It's been nicknamed IRS because an early version was 1040 feet long. Now it's 995 from the gold tee to the short pin and 1140 to the long. This hole is as close as we get to playing almost the same hole as one of the ball golf holes. Both tees are on an elevated golf tee pad, and the long pin is near the golf green. The fairway is lush and rollable grass, as one might expect, although most prefer airing it out on this gradual downhill hole. Even though the fairway is wide, the long distance involved can easily bring the woods into play on either side. There's also a small pond about halfway down the left side. In the future, a small pond and creek will be installed to the right of the short pin. Hole 8 is the easiest hole on the course at 225 feet to the short pin and 270 feet to the long pin from the single shared gold and white tee. The future pond and creek will make both pins a little tougher, especially the long one. The short pin seems to play a little tougher than expected because the righty hyzer is a less desirable choice than a little turnover or forehand coming around from the left side. Hole 9 is a relatively wide open drive with both pins sitting on top of an elevated golf tee pad. The short pin at 305 feet from the gold tee is right in the corner of the pad, so those driving short will have an uphill putt. The wind normally whips across the road from the right, so getting the correct angle on your release is important to prevent hooking the drive OB or, more likely, flying over the basket too far to the left. The long pin is better protected, but long arm righties should have few problems throwing hyzer out to the right and settling back into the pin to avoid the few trees on this hole. The drives to either pin from the white tee involve a little more finesse with the trees more in play on the available routes. Hole 10 has foliage unlike any other hole at Highbridge. The only trees are 10 to 15 foot high pines that define the left side of the fairway. The OB gravel road defines the right side after the dogleg to the left heading to both pins. The drive from either gold or white tee has two primary routes between sentinel trees unless players wish to play very wide around them to the right. It's over 350 feet to the street from the gold tee, so rollers are an option for some since the low pine boughs have been trimmed up. The long pin is well protected, tucked back in the corner, and 615 feet from the gold tee. Hole 11 has a wide open fairway without much trouble unless thrown too far to the right. The real challenge is threading the approach shot through the scattered trees to reach the single pin. Throwing straight ahead is best, but lefties could also go wide left on the drive and then their approach. Backhand rollers are also a solid option for righties. The drive choices are essentially the same from the white tee, but players who can reach the trees might be able to land where their approach will be much easier. Hole 12 is one of my favorite holes, but it can be trouble if you're not careful. The drive from the gold tee to the ideal landing area to approach the long pin is at least 375 feet, but it is downhill. Ideally, the closer to the right the better, but too close and there might be no shot at all. The hemlock forest is very tall, and only those with a powerful thumber might successfully go over the top on the approach. But hemlocks are pretty good at catching discs, so the risk of losing your disc is real. The limbs in the approach route have been meticulously cleared, so a good approach throw can make it through. The short pin is perched on a high mound, making putting toward that placement a real challenge. Hole 13 is a reachable hole with equal opportunities from the left and right to the short pin at 300 feet, slightly uphill from the single gold and white tee. The long pin at 360 feet farther uphill and far to the right is much tougher to reach. There are a few small patches of trees that provide guidance for several routes. Hole 14 is an eye-pleasing short downhill shot that lures players into ace runs. It's safer to run for the right pin at 275 feet from the single gold and white tee because the shot curves to the right away from any chance of an overthrow heading into the marsh that's behind the back left side of the short pin. There's nothing like the view near sunset on this hole, with the backlight coming through the leaves when the fall colors are blazing. Hole 15 is 570 feet from the gold tee to the long pin down a long leafy corridor that marches uphill. The fairway is relatively wide at the beginning, but narrows down just after the short pin on the left at 290 feet from the gold tee. The corridor opens up at 500 feet into the big open field with the long pin about 70 feet away, placed on the side of a sloping hill. The shot to the short pin from the white tee is an easy righty hyzer shot at 200 feet. Hole 16 plays much tougher than it looks, especially in windy conditions under tournament rules. It's a wide open shot, 270 feet downhill from the gold tee to the short pin. However, the pin is surrounded by a moat created by two creeks. Tournament rules require a player's drive from the gold tee to land on the green inside the moat, or else take a penalty and throw from the drop zone, which is the white tee about 185 feet from the short pin. For daily play, just the creeks are OB, and your drive can land outside or inside the moat. No special rules are in play when shooting to the long pin, but the creeks are still OB. Hole 17 has been called crazy, gimmicky, or diabolical. To me, it shows a way to create a challenge where little existed before on this almost wide open hole. The future creek shown in the graphic should be ready in late spring 2005. Players from the gold tee must cross the creek straight ahead about 245 feet on their drive to land in bounds. If they don't make it, they take an OB penalty and throw next from the white tee to the left. You are looking up the fairway from the white tee in the winter. The Gold tee shot is tougher to judge because much of the creek is blind from the tee, hidden behind the mound seen to the right in this photo. The small pond is about 325 feet from the Gold tee, so crushing the drive is also not advisable unless thrown far to the left, which then makes for a tougher upshot to either pin. Both pins are on small mounds, which make the top of the basket barely visible from the Gold tee. Hole 18 is an uphill minefield of challenges. From the Gold tee, most will try to clear the rocky edge of the front golf tee pad. Righties risk not holding the line and hyzering out to the left into the woods, especially with the prevailing tailwind. The safer play is to aim more to the right and take away much of the water OB risk. Both pins are elevated with the short pin at 500 feet on the corner of the back golf tee pad with water to the left. The long pin at 575 feet is also on a small mound with OB water protecting a short approach. From the white tee, driving up the right side is recommended, which makes the approach to either pin a little safer. Driving the left side can work for the long pin if it's not thrown too long, risking the water. That's our tour of the Championship Highbridge Gold Course. Check out tours of the other courses at Highbridge Hills Sports Complex.